Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter says the situation in the Gaza Strip remains intolerable 8 months after a bloody war in the besieged territory. Carter made the remarks in Jerusalem Al-Quds as he wrapped up his 3-day visit to the occupied territories. He said not one destroyed house in Gaza has been rebuilt, and that Palestinians cannot live with the respect and dignity that they deserve. Over 2,200 Palestinians were killed in the 50-day Israeli war in the besieged territory. Carter also criticized the Israeli Prime Minister, saying that as long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in charge, there will be no two-state solution and therefore no Palestinian state. Max Igan is a radio host and political commentator who joins us from Brisbane. Max Igan, the UN a couple of years back said that the Gaza Strip is not going to be livable beyond 2020. We're in 2015, 5 years from now, it's not going to be livable. And by the looks of it, it seems like there's not one effort by the international community to relieve Gaza of its situation, which is the biggest open-air prison. And of course, you have the ex-U.S. President Jimmy Carter now saying how not one house has been rebuilt. What can be done to relieve Gaza from the horrible situation that it's in?
Look, I really think it's got to come down to international pressure. It's got to come down to the people of the world standing up and holding our own governments accountable for supporting this atrocity. There needs to be sanctions put against Israel, and it's only going to come from international pressure, and it's only going to come from the people waking up to the fact that our governments are all involved in this. And even calling it a war, you know, the last aggression that Israel staged against Gaza, this was not a war. It takes two armies to have a war. And Jimmy Carter is right in saying that the situation there is absolutely intolerable. It's so much worse than what it's ever been. You know, so many homes have been destroyed, no aid is getting in, and the people are just forced to live in this intolerable environment. And he said a few years ago it would be unlivable by 2020, but with what Israel has recently done, it's a wonder whether it'll even last to that date. I mean, the situation there, the disease, the amount of just the problems they've got from the lack of having proper water and proper medical facilities and not having any normal supplies that anybody would have. It's absolutely disgraceful. I think it's got to come down to people. It's got to come down to the international pressure. I mean, I've been mounting movements here in Australia, and I know a lot of people have around the world. Israel has really shot itself in the foot in many ways with the latest incursion because it's woken a lot of people up to the fact that this is an ongoing humanitarian tragedy and it's a crisis. And Hamas actually put forth some very, very reasonable terms at the last ceasefire. Hamas are the ones who have been calling for international peacekeepers to be maintaining the borders, to stop the constant Israeli aggression. It could all be put to rest very quickly if international law was respected, and that's what I'd like to see. But again, it will come down to pressure by the people, I think.
Interesting about what Prime Minister Netanyahu has said regarding the two-state solution, that he doesn't believe in one any longer. And Jimmy Carter, the ex-U.S. president, obviously said that as long as Netanyahu is in power, that's not going to happen. There's been lots of criticism leveled against Benjamin Netanyahu from the UN to various political figures there in the United States, including Wendy Sherman being the latest, who blasted practically Benjamin Netanyahu. Why has Netanyahu decided that to be now a platform for him, not to believe in a two-state solution, knowing the type of criticism that's leveled against him for that?
Well, look, Israel stands above international law. It doesn't really matter what the world says. Israel will do what it wants anyway. Look at the amount of UN resolutions that it's broken, the amount of... it's gone against international law in every way you can think. I mean, Israel is just kind of flying in the face of international law. It doesn't care. Benjamin Netanyahu has openly said... I mean, he was elected to office on a platform of not supporting a two-state solution and of saying there will never be peace with the Palestinian people. You know, Israel is not interested in peace, especially not the Benjamin Netanyahu government. And, you know, international pressure, I mean, the world can do what it wants and say what it wants, but Israel will do what it wants anyway. We've got to have sanctions against this country. We've got to stop financing it and got to stop sending it money. I mean, because otherwise it's just going to keep doing what it says. It's going to keep doing what it wants. Benjamin Netanyahu does not want peace. And any terms they've ever put forth for the Palestinian people to try to negotiate so-called peace has always been simply lay down your arms and do what Israel says and completely subjugate to Israeli hegemony, or else there's no peace. And that's the terms that are offered to the Palestinian people. It's not acceptable. I mean, he was elected on a platform of war, basically, and it seems that the Israeli people are supporting it, which is very disturbing. So again, it's got to come down to us putting pressure on our governments to stop them supporting the war crime that is Gaza Strip.
Pleasure talking to you. Max Igan, radio host and political commentator there from Brisbane. Thank you.